and welcome back to the CottageCutz YouTube channel. This is Marla with Mad About Cards and Crafts. I'm so excited to be with you today to create one last fall themed card using the Fall Centerpiece die, which is available now in the Scrap and Cottage. Here's a look at this beautiful die set. I'm going to be doing a little bit of Copic coloring. I did stamp mark the video so that you can move on to the assembly if you don't want to watch the Copic coloring, but I know many of you really enjoy that. I will list all of the colors in the description box below. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the coloring process for me. With the pumpkin, I noticed that there were embossed lines, and so I wanted to make sure to accentuate that. I wanted the highlight on my pumpkin where the light would be focusing on to be in the center, so I went over the lines that were embossed, and then I used a flicking motion at the top and the bottom of the pumpkin and added my darkest color. I blended out my mid-tone, and then I filled in the white space using my lightest color. I do the same thing the second time around, and that gives me a beautiful blend. For the sunflower, typically when I would do a flower, the darkest color would be in the center of the flower. But the way that this flower is positioned, it's positioned as if it's receiving light in the center of it. So I did the opposite. I used my darkest color on the outside tips of each of the petals. Then I brushed in my mid-tone, and then for the center of the flower I used my lightest color. When I put the card together and I put this centerpiece together, you're really going to see what I'm talking about when I'm talking about that the face of that largest sunflower really looks like it's receiving light in the center. I'm going to color up one last leaf. For my leaves, I used the darkest colors in the center, and then I blended them out more towards the outer edges. For this largest sunflower, I wanted to show how I put this together because it doesn't look like it would go together, but it really does. So we have the tighter leaves that are more of a round die on the underside, and then there is a broader leaf layer that goes on top, and then of course you put the center in the sunflower. So it's built just a little bit differently. You might look at those pieces and not realize that they layer together, but they do. I had this 3D embossing folder that I had used on this white cardstock, and it was sitting on my desk. This is from Tim Holtz. And I used one of my dies to trim it down 1/4 of an inch. As you can see, it gave it a little bit of detail around the edge. And then I took 2 rectangles to create this frame. So my thought process here was I wanted something that was going to be that would not detract from the centerpiece, which is why I stayed with white. But by adding all of the layers and then adding the frame that is going to draw your eye in towards the centerpiece, it added texture, it added dimension, but again, it didn't detract from the beautiful centerpiece. I cut out these I used a die to cut out this sentiment that I stamped that says thinking of you. Instead of a Thanksgiving card or maybe a happy fall card, I thought that this would be a beautiful card to send to somebody who I haven't talked to or visited with in a while, and I have somebody in mind for this, so I thought the thinking of you sentiment was perfect. And I'm going to do a dry fit arrangement, so I'm trying to decide specifically where I want my centerpiece to be. I wanted it to be a little bit higher. I didn't want to have everything towards the bottom. I wanted it up just a little bit higher. So I started by adding my sentiment down and then built my centerpiece around that. You can see that I'm using the press and seal to pick up that whole cluster of die cut images so that I don't lose where they are at. This is the easiest way to put these back together. I don't do this all the time, but it is really a nice trick when you have several different pieces and you don't want to lose their placement. So once I get this sentiment down onto the center of my embossed panel, I will start adding some glue. So I'm going from the bottom to the top, and the bottom piece is going to be that pumpkin. And I'll lay it down and remove the press and seal, which will still hold the rest of the images. And my pumpkin's going to be a little bit crooked, which is fine. I can just straighten this out, but I know where the placement is. And now I want to add some foam tape behind some of my flowers. So I want those flowers to be popped up. I'll start with the largest flower, and then, with the pumpkin, I'm sorry. And then I will also add that foam tape to the back of all three eventually of those sunflowers. So here I'm going to place my smaller pumpkin using that foam tape. I'll use additional foam tape for those two flowers. And while I'm doing that, I did want to mention that I am giving this die away, or rather the Scrap and Cottage is giving this die away. In order to qualify to win this fall centerpiece, all you need to do is leave a comment, like the video, and make sure that you are a subscriber. We absolutely love hearing from you. We love the opportunity to give away some of these dies for your enjoyment as a thank you for watching the videos. You guys have been so supportive, and we just really appreciate that. I will choose the winner in my next video, which will be in 2 more weeks. So this is the third flower. I thought I was going to glue it down, and I realized that I needed to add some foam tape to the back of it. So I'm going to take my small leaf that I want to go underneath, and I'm going to lay that in there. Then I have these little dots. I just love these, and I can't find them anymore, but they're just really nice to have for some of these smaller dies. And I'll pop that little sunflower up, and then we're going to start building the other pieces around the outside edge. And for this, I'm not going to use the press and seal. I really wanted the press and seal to help me manage the main frame of this die. And you can see that I'll just do a little bit of dry fitting. I'm loosely following the packaging, and you can certainly follow the packaging to a T, but I like to change some of the arrangements up. I think it's a nice way of getting a different look. So each time that you build the cluster, you can change where you have the sunflowers. That's something to think about. I know that it's really nice to have the image for the first time when you're creating it, but taking some creative license with these dies is just fantastic, and can really change the way that your card looks compared to another card that you may have created. Changing the colors, that's another way that you can change the just the vibe of the dies. I went with very traditional fall colors for the pumpkin. I went with rusty browns, and I went with the darker yellows for my sunflowers. And then I used some blue greens on the smaller leaves and some YG greens for the larger leaves, just to get a little bit of variation in my leaf colors. For the branches, I used some colors that I normally don't use. I used a fig and a khaki, I believe, to color in those branches. Those are some E84 and E87 markers, some of the ones that I don't pull out often. And when I used them, I was like, why don't I use these more frequently? Because I really liked the color combination for the branches. So I'm going to tuck these in, get these last ones glued down, and then I wanted to add a little bit of sparkle and shine. You know I love my dimension and I love my sparkle and shine. So I am going to bring in some champagne stickles, and each of those branches has round little kind of like pseudo berries on the branch, and so I thought that I would go ahead and just add that sparkle to each of the branches, and then I'm going to also add it to or I'll add some glitter pen. There's the stickles. I'm going to use my glitter pen and add it to the center of each of the sunflowers to complete my card. So I hope that you've enjoyed these videos using the fall release. I said it in my last video, I really think this is one of the most beautiful fall releases that I've had the pleasure of working with. I think that the Stampin' Cottage really did a beautiful job on the Christmas and the fall release, but this one, I don't know, there was just something about this that just really spoke to me, and I wish that I had a chance to use every single die from it, but unfortunately I don't have I didn't have enough time, but I did get this fall centerpiece in. If you haven't subscribed, as I mentioned before, we would love for you to subscribe. If you haven't been over to our blog or our Instagram, I have both of those links in the description box below so that you can check out some of the work from our other amazing designers on the team. We have had so many fun cards using the fall and Christmas sets. You don't want to miss out on that inspiration. There's a look at that shine. I'll give you a close-up of my card. And until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day. Thanks so much for watching.